I'm back.
We're going to see more rain and snow. Some of that's going to be heavy. I know it was a rough Sunday in spots. Rain and wind across the east and the northeast. We could get some hurricane or near hurricane force winds near Long Island.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. I'm David Clark. This is My Old Sled channel. We talk about all things snowmobiling. We are just about into the 2019-2020 snowmobile season, and I'm back. So I've had a couple of you guys write and ask if I'm still around. I've just been super busy, and I haven't had a chance to get back to the channel, so thank you for your patience. So today's video, not rocket science. We're going to do a cold start on this sled. I'm going to talk a little bit about storage. I'm going to answer a couple of viewer questions. I've had some good ones about battery storage and starting an EFI sled if your battery's dead. And I'm going to do a repair on the choke on my ATV. So we're going to do all that in 2 seconds, so stick around. Oh man, it's always a relief when it starts up after it's been sitting idle for a while like that. Now, speaking of sitting idle, Joe Nalt asked me, do I use storage oil or do I start the sled once a month? So if you don't know, what Joe's talking about is fogging the cylinders. So if you've got a motor that sees seasonal use and then sits idle for a period of time, like a snowmobile or a boat motor, you can fog the cylinders. That's a storage procedure. Basically, you remove the air box, you run the machine, you spray fogging oil into the intake manifold till it stalls, and then what that does is it coats those cylinders so you don't see corrosion. Because what can happen is over time gravity will gradually pull the oil off your cylinder walls, and you can start to see corrosion set up in about a month. So a couple of things. Firstly, some of the newer machines have a storage mode or a fogging mode on them already. What I prefer to do is I start and run the sled monthly. I have a couple of reasons for that. So in addition to, corrosion in the cylinder walls and rings and things, the other problem is anytime a motor or anything mechanical sort of sits unused for a period of time, seals can dry out, parts can seize up. So I think it's a much better idea to run the sled every month. All right, so before I started the sled, you'll see that I charged and reinstalled the battery. And actually, my first question was from John Leon. His manual said for electric start models to disconnect the battery before charging, and he was asking me why. To be honest, John, I'm not 100% sure, and if there's anybody here that's more knowledgeable than me, let me know. I always disconnect the batteries from my sled before I charge them. I think it's a good idea. I think the manufacturer doesn't know what type of charger you're using, and basically you're protecting any of the components in your electrical system from, any kind of spike or anything. That's my thinking anyway. And I certainly don't see any harm in doing that. So for the 2 seconds it takes to disconnect the terminals or even take the battery right out. And the other thing is when you're storing your sled for the summer, make sure that the battery is topped up and charged properly. If batteries discharge, they can sulfate. And if you're not using your sled until after it's gotten good and cold, so it's well below freezing now and I haven't started the sled until today. So you don't want that battery to freeze. If the battery is charged, it's not going to freeze on you. Next question is from Donna. Donna's asking about her 2015 TNT Ace 900 that doesn't have a pull start. And she's asking how she can start it if the battery is dead. So I've done a video with my older sled where I have an emergency start rope that I wrap around the primer and I pull it over. Don't think that's going to work, or something like that is going to work for you. If you have starter issues, I've heard where guys have started that model sled by spinning the primary. In your case, your best bet is to carry like a battery pack. You can buy these. They have jumper cables on them and they're meant for that purpose. So that's something that you really want to invest in with that type of sled. All right, Mark Mbassi was asking not about my sleds, but about the sheds that you see in my video. How long I've had them, if I had to do any repairs. So Mark, great question. These sometimes are called tarp tents or portable or temporary shelters. These are from a company called Shelter Logics, and they're a really great low-cost way to keep things like lawnmowers and ATVs out of the weather. Obviously, they're not as secure as a shop or a garage, but if you don't have any room in your shop, they're a really good option. So I've had these. I had one for about 6 years, the one my older sled is in. That's up in the trees and it's protected from the elements. It's actually lasted really well. The one repair I had to do, I actually got the door caught in the snowblower one year. So I had to replace that. So these are sort of a top panel, a front and a back panel, and they're available really inexpensive. I replaced that whole door panel for about $30. The other thing was kind of a cool option. My friend has one of these as well, and when the siding wore out, they're meant to last like a year or two, right? But when the sides wore out on his, what he actually did was he got metal siding and screwed it to the frame. So again, it's a great storage option for your sled or your ATV. Thanks for the questions, guys. Keep them coming. I try and answer as quick as I can on the channel itself. But yeah, so there you go. This sled starts. I think next thing I do is throw some fresh gas in it, put some fresh spark plugs, and wait for some snow. So let's head over to my other shed. I'm going to pull the ATV out, and I'll show you this problem I've been having with the choke and how I fixed it. All right, guys, so this is my ATV. It's a 2007 Honda Rancher. Got a good deal on it. It was in really good shape when I got it. One of the minor problems that I had was with the choke. So this machine has a manual choke. We talked about chokes in previous videos. What it does, it restricts the airflow into the carburetor. It changes your mixture for starting. So when it's cold, you pull the choke up. Once it warms up, you put it down. Now, one of the problems I had with this, and the previous owner never figured it out either, it was really annoying. You can see here, when you pull out on the choke, it should stay up, and what it ends up doing is going back down on its own. It was actually a super annoying problem because this machine takes a little while to warm up, and I find I have to sit there and hold the choke out. The fix for this is actually super easy. Anything is easy once you know how, so I thought I'd show you how I fixed it. So these do vary a little bit between machines, but a lot of them have fairly similar. So first thing we're going to do is this little spring here that holds this rubber boot on. We're just going to move that up out of the way. And then we're going to pull the rubber boot up off. Bugger with my hands cold. So underneath that rubber boot is a nut. It's this little round one here, and you can just tighten that up, and you just tighten it up until that plunger stays up, and it's as simple as that. Okay, and that's it. So then the next thing you're going to do is reinstall that rubber boot, make sure that it's right down and seated over that little friction fitting, and then you're going to put your spring down to hold the cap on and roll it down. You don't even need tools if your choke is designed like this one. Some of them are a little bit different. Some of them have a nut here, but a lot of them may have a similar design like that, and then you pull your choke up and it stays put. All right, guys, so there you go, a really simple fix for a really aggravating problem. All right, guys, and that's it for my first video of the 2019-2020 snowmobile season. If you like snowmobiling, you like motorsports, you're not subscribed to the channel yet, take a second and subscribe. Click the little bell icon. You'll get notified when I post a new video. If you found that interesting or entertaining, do me a favor and hit the like button. And that's it. So until next time, I'm David Clark. Thanks for taking the time to watch.